they've got a week between matches now, Ian, and West Ham is on the horizon. We're already thinking about it. John was talking about it before, and it's very much this idea of, all right, what are we going to do? What does need to change? What is the outlook going to be? I agree with John. I think I'd like to see, you know, something comfortable in Anfield. I'd like to see Liverpool start massively in the ascendancy and scare the living daylights out of them. What are you expecting? What do you think he's going to do?
Yeah, I think the subs yesterday maybe have given, you know, something to have a little think about. There's been a lot of chat around tiredness, and you know, obviously you can't always measure the kind of mental tiredness and stuff, but the physical tiredness has been thrown around a lot. I've seen people say, you know, they've been absolutely flogged this season. And I said before, listen, I would have done a little bit more rotation than maybe we've seen, certainly with people like Elliott. But, you know, looking at some of the kind of numbers Liverpool players are hitting, I mean, you think about Canate, who I think's not having a particularly great time at the minute, but has been good overall this season. He's only played 25 league games. He's only played 7 Champions League games, and he's appeared in 4 League Cup matches, and they weren't all starts. So he's on 36. Now, I'm sorry, we're in April. You'd expect to be around those numbers, if not higher. So I'm not having that he's tired. Using that player as one example, you know, Virgil's played 43 games. Again, you're in April. Top players would expect to be playing around about that number, if not maybe slightly more.
Certainly if you're a centre-half.
I know, and if he gets to the end of the season, he'll have played 50 games. I think any top player over certainly the recent history of football, you are playing 50, 60 games a season. That is standard. If you're going to be successful and have a good campaign, that's where you expect to be at. I think it's different maybe for different footballers. So I think you can look at someone like Ryan Gravenberch and go, he's on the same number as Virgil. He's played 43 as well. Exactly the same. 31 league. He's played in 9 Champions League and he's appeared in 3 games in the League Cup. Now, he probably isn't used to this level of intensity, and I think in his performances since maybe Jan, Feb, you've seen him just maybe deliver an okay performance, slightly below par one. It probably just is. He's not quite used to going this deep into a season, playing this many matches, given his age, given how he's been used in the past. I think that's one player where you can look at and go, he's probably feeling the effects. Maybe he is a little bit tired, but obviously the problem is, you haven't necessarily got an ideal replacement for him. So the manager's almost thinking, well, can I just get away with it now until the end of the season?
I thought he was good yesterday.
I thought he did okay yesterday.
Against Everton.
I thought he did okay. I thought he was poor against Everton first half, but plays better second half. Lots of them to have that kind of game, in fairness. And again, let's be really, really clear. Ryan Gravenberch has had a great season. He's been one of the standouts, and he was absolutely brilliant. But he is a very young footballer. So I think it's different things for different players. You know, they're not all just tired. Some of them might be mentally tired. And listen, some of them have lived through previous campaigns where maybe it just gets a little bit too much and nerves kicking and all that stuff. So I get that. But I think it's letting one or two off the hook a little bit by just going, they're all really tired. When you look at the numbers, it's what you would expect them to be hitting and delivering in any given campaign if you're playing for Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah, I mean, you summed that up better than I could. So no, that I completely agree. I think it is it's almost a little bit of a lazy excuse, isn't it, to say, oh well, they are tired, and I don't know if I quite buy into it. I think last season I could buy into it a little bit more because they'd had so many injuries and players weren't at 100% fitness. I think now, you know, obviously they're going to have 1 game a week between now and the end of the season.
And that's the key thing now, Beth. I mean, that is now, from this point until the end of the campaign, they'd rather be playing in the Champions League, let's be clear. Yeah. But from now until the end of the campaign, there is a week between now and West Ham. There is then a week between, you know, it's all sorted. They're all every game's Sunday. Yeah. It's all been boxed off now. They literally know when the games are, with the exception of Brighton, which might move. But everything else now, they know exactly when it's going to kick off. And Brighton can't be before Sunday. They've literally got a week between each of them.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, that slightly makes me a little bit nervous because I always think Liverpool play better when they play every 3 days. And, you know, we talk about tiredness and stuff, but I just think Liverpool under Klopp were a team that were better when they had a little bit of rhythm and a little bit of momentum. So it will be interesting to see how they fare when they've got a whole week on the training pitch. Hopefully, you know, it gives the manager some time to work with them and sort of defensively maybe iron out a few things. It gives the likes of Ryan Gravenberch a chance to rest a little bit. And I do sort of think I wouldn't be surprised if the manager names the same team next week, because I think he is that sort of manager, maybe with Diaz coming in, hopefully Bradley coming in. But, you know, I'm not quite sure he's going to bow down to people saying you should rotate more. I think in his head, you know, for whatever reason, he sees Harvey Elliott as a sub, as a player who can come on and impact things. I'd love to see him start next week. I think he's got a really strong case for starting, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't.
I'd be surprised if he does. to be clear,
You're surprised how it starts. Yeah.
Really surprised.
So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how he manages things between now and the end of the season. But yeah, they're in such a strong position, and I think, you know, I was working the Everton game at the weekend, and you know, from the outset, even though they sort of dominated in terms of possession, it just sort of felt like they had one eye on Madrid, which completely fair enough. I think that's how it should be. But even at 1-1, you know, they had the better chances, but there wasn't any real conviction that they could get, you know, back into that game really, or they could win the game. And I just sort of think Arsenal now look like they've given up hope. The last thing Liverpool want to do is drop needless points over the next couple of weeks and allow this to be taken right to the end of the season.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? With you know, do you want less games or more? I think it does put a little bit more pressure on them. They've got all week to think about this. This league game, they've got all week to think about, what if 11 goes to 8 or so, whatever. I actually think the distraction, if you can call it that, a bit of a Champions League game might not be the worst thing in the world for them. But listen, you know, maybe they'll deal well under that pressure. Maybe, you know, having all week to think about West Ham, but we'll see a really commanding performance from it. Maybe the extra day's rest and things like that, and the manager having more opportunities to work with them. We've not really seen anything like this since probably the first few weeks of the season, isn't it? Where we're just playing once a week till our first international break, and he doesn't rotate at all then. He picks the same 11 and more or less makes the same subs in all 3 games. And so I agree with you, Beth. I think it is most likely that he'll pick a team against West Ham, and if it goes well, he'll look to ride that team for the rest of the season.